They are missing not one but two of their favorite and best players there that they may not have access to, taking on this pretty feisty Vanderbilt team here, who, by the way, you may recall, kicked their ass the first time they played. That was in Vandy, though. This is at Rupp Arena here tonight. And currently we're seeing probably Kentucky laying what now? 4.5, 5 points, somewhere in that ballpark there. I saw them on the money line at right around $2. It all depends on whether or not you guys believe Kentucky, who is 17-9, 17th in the country right now. They are going to be without a couple of those guys once again. Can they avenge that 74-69 loss from a couple of weeks ago, rather? No Lamont Butler, although he did play in that game, that first go-around for Vandy, and you may recall he had 12 or 14 points in that one. But boy, oh boy, he is kind of the engine that makes it roll for Kentucky here. Don't know that I trust Vandy to sweep the season series with Kentucky. Could you imagine that? That would be unheard of at Rupp. They might burn the building down if that happens here tonight. But let's see what our main man, Yanni the Greek, has to say, especially about this one, and if you're seeing any steam coming in, because I can't imagine a world, Yanni, where Vandy sweeps Kentucky this season here. Kentucky at home is a different animal. They are a little banged up, but it feels like this might be a good spot to back them here at home. What are you seeing?
Yeah, we've bet a ton already. That's why I jumped on a little bit late. About 20 bets already. I threw out a 6-pack to subscribers because they've been like yesterday. If you jumped on here, the steam that I gave out, absolutely, there's almost impossible not to have turned a profit overall because I saw in the account how well we did. But picking and choosing is what's difficult sometimes, keeping it very low volume. But I got to do what I got to do. What's best for subscribers. Today is one of those days where it's very tough, again, because they're firing sides and totals. Real quickly, on the game you asked for, we're not saying Vandy sweeping, but we did take the 5.5 and took the 5 on Vandy to make it a closer game, at least than that number reflects. I think that's why it's shaded a little higher in Kentucky because of the narrative. Is Vandy really going to sweep them? Is Vandy really going to go into Kentucky and beat them? They don't have to. Just don't lose by more than 5, and we'll hopefully cash that ticket.
Obviously, you got Bama licking their wounds against Missouri. Looks to be the big game of the night there. And you're starting to see in a lot of the mid-majors tonight across the board as well, we're seeing. So if you're getting sides and totals this early, where are they focusing on the board here, Yanni?
All over the place. In fact, in that Alabama-Missouri game, we went over 170.5 and 171. I think it's up to about 172.5 right now. So that game's another bet that we placed. Prime time, marquee games. And I don't even think it's really getting ahead of the public on that one. Because, again, they usually bet favorites and over, most notably on those prime time standalone games, the TV games. The total's almost always on the over, except when it's so high. Like when you're seeing those high 160s, high 170s, unless there's that recency bias where both teams are coming off 2 or 3 straight games where they put up 80, 90 points each, you get more under money, believe it or not, than over money from the recreational bettors. And this is one of those spots where looking in the back end of already, I'm seeing some under bets from recreational bettors. But like I said, the groups I work with, they all went over from 70, 70.5, and 71 on that total.
I'm seeing nothing but over money with Miami and Florida State. Miami has absolutely not quit on the season, although they probably should have. But they are taking on Florida State in Florida State. I saw it last night at 152. I'm seeing 155s here. Is that your groups there pushing this total up through the roof?
No, they haven't touched it. But here's where the difference of opinion is. They actually took the Miami side. Not the guys that I work with, but again, another group took the 9 on the overnight was actually 9.5, but then they took the 9 and they took the 8.5 on the weak Miami, Florida side. And rest assured, the books are going to have good balance there because I don't see many recreational accounts on the Miami side. In fact, the few bets that I have seen already in the back end, they're on the opposite. They're on Florida State. I even see I don't know why people tease college basketball. When you got a total of a 150, how's that going to help you? But they're teasing Florida State. Again, it's probably going to cover. Watch that teaser cash, but it's just not a good bet, man, to tease college basketball. We don't even tease college football, let alone college basketball. But yeah, you have an opposite of opinion there with the recreational bettors betting the Florida State side and the wise guys all over Miami. But we saw that yesterday with the LSU South Carolina, and the public got that one right, because not only were the sharp accounts taking the South Carolina side at +3 or better, they were taking some money line on South Carolina, and they got blown out. So it doesn't mean, like I say, you can't make money fading the public unless you're getting 11 to 10. And I don't know any book that's going to give you 11 to 10. We usually have to lay 11 to 10 where I come from.
Matchups, first of all, are all over the place. Every sports book seems to be different. This particular one is available at both DraftKings and FanDuel, so that should cover most of you guys. But Harry Hall, your household name, Harry Hall, over Kevin Yu. He's listed at -120 right now. Listen, I have a lot of good things to say about Hall, but the two that matter the most to me this week, putting and short game. He's gained strokes putting 18 straight events, while he's also gained strokes around the green in all but one of those as well. So no surprise in that same span, which is 8 months, he ranks number 1 in this field in strokes gained putting and number 2 in strokes gained around the green. Hall's last 2 starts haven't been great. He missed the cut at the Waste Management, and he finished tied for 58th at Pebble. However, before that, Hall had finished in the top 25 in 11 of 14 events, including a win at the ISCO Championship last July. Kevin Yu, fair to say, he also does have a win at the Sanderson Farms in October. So got to give him credit there, but far less consistent compared to Hall over that same 8-month period. In 16 starts in that same period, he's got more missed cuts, 7, than top 20 finishes, 5. And the 4 times he did make the cut, he finished between 44th and 73rd. So those are great results when you're betting matchups, because really, he can still have a good week as long as Hall has a better week. But even if he's making the cut, he's not finishing up there near the top. So I love that Hall, the consistency that Hall's shown, and I think he'll be the guy that's in that top, maybe first page, second page of the leaderboard come the end of the week. He's got 2 starts on this track, Joe. He finished tied for 10th, including at one of those. This is Kevin Yu's first time playing here. So just one more advantage to Hall. So I think Harry Hall over Kevin Yu. Again, that's a 72-hole tournament matchup, so make sure you choose the right ones, not the first round 18-hole matchups. Yes, Steven Yeager is another guy. You could throw some money on him outright, sure, but I like him in the top 10 or top 20 market. He's +320 for a top 10, +150 for a top 20. He's more decorated than most people in this field, considering he is a PGA Tour winner. He won the Houston Open last March. He hasn't really piggybacked that into a ton of success since. He's only got 7 top 25 finishes in almost a year since then. But his best starts have come more recently. He finished solo second at the Black Desert Championship in October. He nearly won again just this past January in the Aloha Swing. He finished tied for 3rd at the Sony Open in Hawaii. Aside from that, he's got very good history at this event. This is only the fourth year they've played this event at this course that's officially a PGA Tour event. He's played in all 3 previous years. He finished 15th, 18th, and tied for 3rd last year. He's got solid distance off the tee. That's going to help this week. It's long. It's 7,400 yards. And he ranks 11th in this field in total strokes gained over the last 12 months. And finally, he didn't putt well last week at the Genesis, but he had gained strokes putting in 7 of his 9 previous starts, averaging nearly 3/4 of a stroke per round, which ranks 3rd in this field during that stretch. And I do think putting, because it's going to be a low score winning, getting close to 20 under par, you're going to need to make a lot of birdies. So Steven Yeager, sprinkle a little on the top 10 and top 20 market to place your wager this week.
Yeah, I didn't expect to find a whole lot in this game. I've been playing Austin Reeves over his rebounds, but the books have gotten ahead of that one, so we're not playing Austin Reeves, even though I've been talking about that one for a while. But this Rui Hachimura over 1.5 made threes is definitely worth a look here. Both games that Lucas played, he's made 3 of them. And I love that he got 6 and 5 3-point attempts, because, Joe, this guy's shooting 45% from threes. This is a game that LeBron, I think, should play. They said he practiced yesterday, so my guess is he's going to suit up. But Lucas still not back to playing, full 40 minutes. Maybe after the All-Star break he does. But this is a Charlotte team that's 24th defending 3-point shots to power forward. So I get Hachimura. he's going to get some wide open shots with the amount of tension that Luka and LeBron gets. He's been hitting those wide open shots. He gets a really weak opponent. I mean, a -12 spread. You got to expect the Lakers to put up some points. I like Hachimura to get to 2 3-pointers tonight. And one of the plays that we cashed both weeks, Joe, that we've been talking about is Stephen Bunting under his 3-dart average. It's 97.5, and we're going to come right back to it and play the under. 94.06 and 93.9 the last 2 nights. He's been the guy that has looked the shakiest through 2 weeks, doesn't look confident, and he's only 5 of 18 on his checkouts. And as we talked about last week, if you're not getting those checkouts, your average just plummets. So he's been struggling, and we're going to keep fading Stephen Bunting until he gets off the schneid a little bit. We've seen over the years, some of these guys just do not react well to the Premier League. It's on a random Thursday. There's travel involved. And every year we see a couple guys really struggle. This may be our guy. So we'll fade Stephen Bunting. We'll take him under 97.5 on the 3-dart average. This play, if you're on DraftKings, you click on match props and then just scroll all the way to the right and you'll see 3-dart average. So look under match props, scroll to the right, 3-dart average. Well, we talked about Kyle Busch under 1.5 wins for this season because he hates his team. He hates his car. He hates where he's at in his career. He hates where he's at in his life. Joe, he probably hates his lunch. So we're just fading Kyle Busch. And so what happened last week, he was actually running good. And then he got in a big accident. It wasn't his fault. But then in the post-race interview, he blames the wrong guy. Just so sarcastic, bad attitude. So all head-to-head matchups against Kyle Busch cash. So we're going to come right back to fading him. Austin Cindric over Kyle Busch. Austin Cindric in the Penske Ford was very, very fast, way faster than Kyle Busch. And this is more of an ongoing theme for this season. Head-to-head matchups were just fading Kyle Busch. His car is not that good. He's in a bad attitude. Joe, you hear him over the radio just making sarcastic comments. He's like, car won't turn to the left. Car slow on the straight. What a surprise. The crew chief is just like, yeah, we know. Like, they hate each other. This is not a good relationship. So we're fading Kyle Busch, Austin Cindric over Kyle Busch.
Yeah, I'll talk about 2 fights today. So one of the title fights on the card, Carlos Adames versus Hamza Sheeraz. Really looking forward to this one, as I am for all the fights. But, you know, Hamza Sheeraz especially, one of my favorite fighters right now. He really is a phenomenal talent in the ring. You know, sets you up with the jab. He's really tall. He can, you know, lure you under those huge straight right hands of his. If you overcommit, you know, he's got hooks, he's got uppercuts on the inside. He really is, you know, such a massive talent. What makes him possibly so exciting in the ring as well is that he's so young. He's definitely not the finished article either. You know, he looked very uncomfortable against Bradley Skeet all those years ago. He took a few big shots early off Ammo Williams in their fight recently as well. But, you know, like I said, at only 25 years of age, he's consistently improving with every fight. And, you know, just going back to his previous fight, the manner in which he dealt with Tyler Denny, you know, a guy who had just come off a career best win prior to that against Felix Cash, you know, just super impressive the way he went about his business. Nothing flash about the win, no particular wow factor, but just consistently walked Denny down in that one, baited him onto hard counter shots. Such an intelligent fighter as well at only 25. And I do see a similar thing happening this weekend against Carlos Adames. You know, Adames looked deflated in the second half of his fight against Patrick Teixeira all those years ago, his only loss to date. And even in more recent fights against Julian J-Rock Williams, for example, who is, you know, arguably well past his best at this point. You know, Williams was given Adames fits with his movement and jab early in their fight. So, you know, for me, Adames is the champion in fairness. You know, he's a strong puncher as well. He can crack, but he does tend to throw those heavy punches of his on a bit of a loop. Often likes to come in around an opponent's high guard with those wing and hooks of his. And that's a very dangerous proposition for him this weekend against Sheeraz. You know, Sheeraz is likely going to bait him in with that high guard. Adames is looking to come in over the top, you know, throw hooks around the guard, so to speak. And then that gives Sheeraz the opportunity to come right back down the pipe, hit him with straight rights, uppercuts on the inside, look to close the show. So for me, I already bet Sheeraz at the opener minus 225. It is a high line, obviously, but it's since been steamed even higher. Line currently sitting at minus 260 right now. But whichever way you play this one, whether you up to take Sheeraz by KO plus 120, you know, he's coming to this one of 15 straight stoppages. Whether you look to throw Sheeraz into a parlay, take him on the money line, whatever you happen to choose, I think you have to take Hamza Sheeraz to become the new champion this weekend against Carlos Adames. Yeah, massive card. And I'll go straight for the big one, Joe. Artur Beterbiev, Dimitri Bivol 2. Phenomenal fight first time around between these two, obviously. I actually had a 5% play up on Dimitri Bivol to win that first fight. And if I'm being honest, especially at the first time reviewing, I thought I got a little bit robbed. I thought he did enough to edge that fight. Although, since rewatching the fight, I had to second guess myself somewhat. I thought Beterbiev, I should say, did a little bit better than I thought the first time. Yourself, you have a 5% play, sometimes your view can be skewed by having that play on it. But phenomenally close fight, no matter which way you scored it. But in terms of the rematch, the one thing you're always going to get from Dimitri Bivol is 100% consistency. Same with Beterbiev as well. He never really has an off night in the ring. Bivol's style is so fundamental. Soviet, Central Asian, Eastern European, however you want to frame it in terms of that particular distinct style is so well drilled into fighters, especially the importance of footwork in the ring, that even when a guy like Bivol does put on a display that, from the outside seems a little underwhelming, Lyndon Arthur, Craig's Richard comes to mind, for example, that's still Bivol at 100% just in second gear. So, Bivol is one of those fighters that we know what we're going to get from him this weekend. And going back and revisiting that first fight again, to me, basically did everything he could do to win, in my opinion. Bivol fought as near to pitch perfect as is possible for him. His range was excellent. He was having success in throwing those limited combinations of Beterbiev as well. So I really don't see all that much Bivol can effectively improve upon for this rematch. Contrast that over to Beterbiev, however, and for me, there are definitely some things he can work on ahead of this one. We saw in that first fight, for example, that Beterbiev had a tendency to load up on those short hooks inside. That's been a money punch for him across his career so far. But in all honesty, those, short hooks, they were never really going to work out against the guy as defensively elite as Bivol is. Bivol was blocking most of those hooks inside with his high guard. And Beterbiev struggled to connect, I should say, with any kind of regularity early in that fight. He caught Bivol with just one power punch across the opening 2 rounds, 23 power punches combined across the first half of the fight. And those were numbers he eclipsed completely in the final 2 rounds alone. Beterbiev landed 29 power punches on Bivol across rounds 11 and 12. So like I said, compare that with just one he landed across the first 2 rounds. And the difference becomes apparent in terms of how Beterbiev, adjusted in that fight. So I think it's fair to say we know what version of Bivol we're going to get once again here on Saturday. He is an elite fighter, no question, obviously. But like I said, he fought as well as he could do, in my opinion, and still lost. I just don't see all that much he can improve upon going into this fight. While for Beterbiev, I personally felt he adjusted pretty well as the first fight wore on, started to mix it up a lot more. And if you can implement those changes, those adjustments much earlier this time around, I do think Beterbiev repeats the win. So again, this is a fight I've already bet. I took Beterbiev at -120. Line hasn't moved all that much, floating around -130 right now. That's to be expected. It is a razor close fight. But Artur Beterbiev for me to repeat this weekend against Dimitri Bivol.